Hi, I'm Rachel Stern, founder and CEO of GroundReport. GroundReport.com is a news site where anyone can tell their story and earn some money. How it works is you go to GroundReport.com, upload your images, upload your video, or upload your article about something that you've just witnessed. Then we share revenues with you based on the traffic to your article. So if you have a story to tell, or you're just looking for a different perspective on what's going on in the world, come to GroundReport.com.
Rachel, let's talk a little bit more in detail about your company. You mentioned a few things in the beginning. Tell us a little bit more about your company.
So GroundReport is a citizen journalism platform that helps people tell their stories, and they can do this any way they want. They can send text, they can send images, they can upload video, and this instantly is broadcast to an international audience. And then the site, which is supported by advertising, shares those revenues with the writers. So not only are they given a voice and a platform to share their story, they can actually make money off of it.
So how many writers do you have right now on your site?
We have over 1,000 registered contributors, and they're from dozens of countries all over the world. Right now, with the news, some of the stories are coming from Burma, where there's a crackdown on the media, Pakistan, where there's also been censorship of the media, because another thing that GroundReport does is it allows people who are in regions where there's government censorship of the media to share their stories and to connect with an international journalist and news community in that way.
Now, starting a company isn't easy. When did it start? How did you go about it? Where'd you come up with the idea?
Okay, the idea was the result of a couple of experiences that I had. The first one was I was a reporter for the U.S. mission to the United Nations, and I was in the Security Council every day taking in what was going on, and I would turn these into cables that went back to State Department headquarters in Washington. And at the time, the crisis in Darfur was escalating. It had started in 2003. By this time it was 2005, and it was a massive disaster, and to the extent that Secretary General Kofi Annan was coming down and basically begging the member states to do something, and they did nothing. And I realized, well, if there's no public pressure, it's not happening, and there's no public pressure because there's no public awareness. Because you would go home and watch the news, and the news story of the evening would be about the latest Nintendo console, and this is why thousands of people were dying in Darfur. But at the same time, I knew that the information was there. So I said, the information is there, how can we connect it with the people? And I know there are people who want to know what's really going on. How can we bridge this gap? After the mission, I worked at LimeWire, which is a file-sharing software company, and I learned a lot about creating websites, web technologies, and that gave the second piece. So the information was there, and we have the technology. If you bring them together, you can create a platform that allows the people who are witnessing things to tell their stories with the world, and allows people who are looking for the stories to find them.
How do you plan to monetize further your company?
We came out of beta in August, and we're going to pursue the business model, which is advertising based, and we're going to use the same metrics that allow people to get a very specific personalized news experience to deliver highly targeted ads. So for instance, we are going to be moving towards a model where we're geo-mapping all the news articles. So every article will be tagged on a Google Maps mashup to show exactly where it's located. But we really want to find advertisers and sponsors who are perfectly aligned with our mission. The other nice thing is that because our goal is to democratize the media, we can work with a lot of foundations that are focused on the media. So the Knight Foundation grants, for instance, News Innovation Awards. These are all things that we're in the process of applying for grants and hopefully that kind of funding.
And you mentioned investors. What type of investors are you looking for at this point? Are you looking at new investors?
Yes, we're looking for new investors, mostly angel investors. The mission of GroundReport is very specific, so it'd either have to be angel investors or a venture capitalist firm that is all about business for the public good, that understands that this is something that we're gonna remain faithful to, and that while we definitely want to show that business can be profitable and do something good at the same time.
Who would you say is your target market at this point?
Our target audience is actually Western, even though our contributors come from all over the world. When I look at our analytics, it's certainly completely focused on the US and Canada mostly, some in the UK. So an English-speaking market also, because we are a completely English language news site, even though we are very international.
Now, who would you say are your competitors in this? I mean, obviously mainstream media is, but on the internet?
On the internet, in citizen journalism, there are two big competitors. One is Now Public, one is Newsvine. There are a lot of smaller outfits, which I think is really cool. One of the things that I'd really like to do and like to see is a lot of these different platforms working together, because the concept of citizen journalism lends itself to helping people share their stories and sharing information in this way. Our biggest difference is that GroundReport compensates its contributors, so people are paid for their work. GroundReport's guidelines are that every report that you find on GroundReport is the original work of that author. They have submitted it themselves, so it's really pure citizen journalism with revenue sharing.
Thank you, Rachel, for talking with us. And here's what we've learned about GroundReport. I'm Megan Mitchell. Thank you for watching Next New Yorkers. Tune in next week.